With the House coming to order, Mr. Clerk.
Aloha and good afternoon. Today's invocation will be delivered by Representative Scott Y. Nishimoto. Will the members who wish to participate please rise?
Please stay seated. So members, why don't we take a minute of quiet reflection to think about whatever you feel like. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Nishimoto. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Ayu, Mr. Alcos, Ms. Amato, Ms. Bellotti, Mr. Chun, Ms. Cochran,
Excused.
Mr. Evslin, Mr. Ganadin, Mr. Garcia, Mr. Garrett, Mr. Gates,
Excused.
Mr. Hashem, Mr. Hashimoto, Mr. Holt, Ms. Hussey Burdick, Ms. Ichiyama, Mr. Iligan, Ms. Kahaloa, Ms. Capella, Mr. Kila, Ms. Kitagawa, Mr. Kobayashi, Mr. Kong, Ms. Lachika, Ms. Lamosao, Ms. Lowen,
Excused.
Ms. Martin, Ms. Martinez, Mr. Matayoshi, Ms. Matsumoto, Mr. Mizuno, Ms. Morikawa, Ms. Nakamura, Mr. Nakashima, Mr. Nishimoto, Mr. Onishi, Ms. Peruso, Mr. Pirik, Ms. Poe Poe, Mr. Quinlan, Mr. Sayama, Ms. Souza, Mr. Takayama, Ms. Takenouchi, Mr. Tam, Mr. Tarnas, Mr. Todd, Mr. Ward, Mr. Woodson, Mr. Yamashita, Mr. Speaker.
Present.
Mr. Speaker, 48 members are present, 3 are excused.
Item 2, reading of the Journal, Representative Morikawa.
Mr. Speaker, may this matter be deferred.
So ordered. Item 3, Mr. Clerk, are there any messages from the Governor?
Mr. Speaker, there are none.
Item 4, Mr. Clerk, are there any Senate communications?
Mr. Speaker, there are none.
All right, members, are there any introductions? Okay, if not, we're on item 5, floor presentations. Mr. Clerk, are there any floor presentations?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, we have 2 floor presentations today. The first being House Resolution number 219, recognizing the lifelong contributions of Patricia Psyche and commending her outstanding public service. This resolution is offered by Representative Garcia.
Representative Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to adopt this resolution.
Representative Matsumoto.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
All right, members, is there any discussion? Representative Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today we honor the Honorable Patricia Psyche, born and raised in Hilo, and graduated from Hilo High School in 1948 and the UH Systems in 1952. Her first job was at TPA Aloha Airlines, flying the old DC-6s, worked weekends and holidays for double pay, would even earn hazard pay flying tourists over the volcano, worked to pay her way through the UH Systems. Got her first teaching job at Punahou, and Pat became known as a very outspoken and driven person. Soon after, Pat got married to her husband Stanley and moved to Ohio, where he finished his residency. There in Ohio, she taught at a local public school. And there she taught those haole kids the hula and got the attention of local Chamber of Commerce to then promote the Hawaiian May Day program in the town square. The young couple moved back home and tried to buy a house in Aina Haina, but was denied by their association because they were Japanese. Mind you, this was the 50s and 60s. While teaching at Kaimuki Middle School, Pat approached the HGEA union and organized their first teachers chapter before HSTA was ever around. Pat's colleagues had encouraged her to run for office, and she did, and Hawaii was never the same. Pat first served in the 1968 Con, and that same year was later elected to the State House. And Pat served on this very floor from 1968 to 1974. While Pat was serving here in the House, she was appointed by President Richard Nixon to the National Council of Women. Upon returning back from DC, Pat had asked LRB and the HMIR attorneys to draft an equal rights amendment and 28 other bills, working in a bipartisan manner to have these bills passed. In those years, a woman could not have a credit card in her own name, couldn't have a mortgage in her own name, and divorced women needed permission from their ex-husbands on many things. Women who were pregnant could not get paid leave. Because of the hard work of Pat Psyche, those bills passed and forever changed the lives of women in Hawaii. Pat then served in the state senate from 1974 to 1982, and though she and her colleagues across the aisle would fight vigorously like hell on the floor over policy, they would then go out and get Simon together afterwards. Pat belonged to the group labeled by the media as the dissident faction, as half Republicans and half Democrats took over Senate leadership. While chairing the Higher Education Committee, Pat oversaw the creation of KCC and the UH Medical School. That same year, she oversaw the construction of the law school library. Pat was then elected and served in the U.S. Congress from 1986 to 1990. And while in Congress, Pat was approached by President Bush, went to the Oval Office and asked him to stop the bombing of Kaho'olawe and work to get the island back in our state's control. Pat was then appointed to the cabinet of President Bush as the director of the SBA, helping millions of Americans across the country and focusing specifically on Hawaii. Mr. Speaker, here we are, 55 years after Pat was first elected to this body. A lot has changed in our state and country since then, but one thing remains certain: the need for balance and a strong, loyal opposition. Pat has paved the way for so many in this state. Now, colleagues, please join me in congratulating the Honorable Congresswoman Pat Psyche for her lifetime of achievements. Auntie Pat, may God bless you with great health and happiness in the years to come. Mahalo, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to share the rich history of this most favored lady. I'm going to give a couple of personal notes. I think you've heard all the history from the good representative from the West Side. Pat was my hero. Speaker. She was the role model. She was a congresswoman. She was the one who was the party chair. She was the one who freed Kaho'olawe, Hawaiian issues as preeminent in her tenure. But most of all, Speaker, when sometimes I speak on the floor, you see, well, this guy's a little bit feisty. Well, I got it from her, actually. I just asked her inside the caucus room, you know, what advice do you have to us new people, to our new people and to the staff? What did she say? Never give up. The Churchillian sense of never giving up. And I'm not going to say her age, but it's almost centurion or centennial. But that role model of what she's contributed is so memorable. So a lot of you know her history, but there's some secrets that you don't know. Did you know that our beloved speaker, our exalted speaker here, is still to this day known as the son of Pat Psyche that helped him get elected in the beginning? Keep that as a note so you know that Pat Psyche and Scott Psyche, even though not related, do have a bond with each other because of that name. So, Pat, thank you for all of your contribution to the state of Hawaii. Thank you for the sense of service that you've never given up on and the way that you've inspired so many of us, especially myself. God bless you. Aloha.
Representative Kobayashi.
Mr. Speaker, I rise in support.
Please proceed.
Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Pat Psyche is truly honorable and venerable. I think I'm the only person here who had the privilege of serving with her in the state senate in the early 80s. Among her many achievements, is her contribution to the community. Specifically, I'd like to mention that when she taught, the school was called Kamiki Intermediate School. She then also taught at Kalani High School and can be credited with starting Kapiolani Community College, reinserting a $1 million planning line item that had been rejected the prior year by 2 Democratic senators, both of whom became Hawaii governors. So Kapiolani Community College owes a great debt to Patricia Psyche. In addition to that, she also helped with innumerable community and business organizations, giving them entree to the legislature and specifically assisting in several important pieces of legislation. So I think that while her history is very brief in this resolution, there is a lot more that can be said. So to Patricia Psyche, our congratulations and our mahalo. Thank you.
Representative Ichiyama,
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in support.
please proceed.
Mr. Speaker, as the co-convener of the Women's Legislative Caucus, I just wanted to acknowledge and thank former Congresswoman Pat Psyche for everything that she has done to trailblaze the way for women in politics, to open so many doors for us that were once closed. You really, I think, laid a strong foundation for us to stand upon. I also wanted to recognize that this is the 51st anniversary of the Equal Rights Amendment, and it was former Congresswoman Psyche here in the House of Representatives that waited to make sure that Hawaii was one of the very first states that ratified the Equal Rights Amendment. So thank you so much for everything you've done, not just for the women and girls of Hawaii, but all the families and the people of Hawaii. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Yamashita,
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, in support.
please proceed.
Thank you. So, buying is on a personal note. Both my parents are from Hilo, and so they would speak of you my whole life. In fact, my mother, her gynecologist was Dr. Psyche. And I can say that I have known your husband since I was born because he brought me into the world. So we have a connection. So I just wanted to say that and thank you.
Representative Matsumoto,
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, in strong support.
please proceed.
I just wanted to add to everything else that was already mentioned. I had the opportunity to go to several youth outreach events with former Congresswoman Pat Psyche, and if you've never had the opportunity to speak with her, her stories are amazing. She is such a role model and just an inspiration. I would love every single time we would talk to a lot of high school students, and just to watch their faces on how inspired they were on the words she had. And she doesn't pull punches. She says exactly what's on her mind, and I absolutely love that. Thank you for all the work you've done.
Is there further discussion? If not, before we take the vote, the chair would just like to correct Representative Ward, because Mrs. Psyche and I are related somewhere on the samurai level. So we'll take a voice vote. All those in favor say aye. All opposed, the motion carries. Representative Garcia, please proceed with the certificate and lay presentation. Mr. Clerk, do we have a second floor presentation?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, House Resolution Number 220, commending and honoring Carissa Kainani Moore for her outstanding contributions to the sport of surfing and the state of Hawaii. This resolution is offered by Representative Sayama.
Representative Siama.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to adopt the resolution.
Representative Martin.
Speaker, I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? Representative Siama.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of the Hawaii State House of Representatives, it is my honor to recognize a very special constituent, Carissa Kainani Moore, for her outstanding contribution to Hawaii through surfing. From an early age of 11, Carissa made a big splash in competitive surfing, winning 11 National Scholastic Surfing Association amateur titles and becoming the youngest champion to win a Triple Crown at the age of 16. With the support of her family and friends, Carissa continued to ride the wave of success after graduating Punahou, winning 5 world championships, 3 Vans Triple Crowns of surfing championships, and finally qualifying to represent the United States in the Tokyo Olympics. On the biggest world stage against the best surfers of the world, Carissa won the gold medal in the women's surfing, becoming the first woman to win the gold medal in surfing and the second Native Hawaiian gold medalist surfer after Duke Kahanamoku. Beyond her contributions and success in competitive surfing, Carissa works to inspire the next generation of women surfers through her More Aloha Foundation. The mission of More Aloha is to use surfing as a platform to empower young women and instill in them the spirit of aloha as they step outside their comfort zone and be fearless. For surfers and many others, Carissa is a role model, proof that through the hard work, sincerity, and passion, local folks can compete and thrive on the world stage. On the floor with Carissa today, we also have her stepfather, David, and mother, Carol. I also want to extend a warm welcome to Keith Amamiya, who is in the gallery with my office manager, Evelyn. Please, members, let's give them a warm welcome to their House of Representatives.
Is there Representative Ward?
Thank you, Chair. I must mention that Carissa's auntie, Liz Moore, is my constituent, and all she does is talk about you. You've made us very, very proud all over the state of Hawaii. Congratulations. Thank you, Speaker.
Representative Quillen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As the representative for the North Shore, I would be remiss if I did not say anything. Carissa, you are not just a hero to my community, you are a hero to my mother. You are a hero to my wife, and if I'm ever lucky enough to have a daughter, I know that you will be her hero too. Mahalo.
Representative Matsumoto.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand in strong support.
Please proceed.
I've been watching you surf from afar since you were very young, and just such an inspiration. And the last floor presentation I gave before COVID hit, we were honoring all the women surfers, and you were unable to make it because you were competing. And it's so happy that we're able to have you on the floor today to congratulate you on all you've done and what an inspiration you are.
Representative Lamasal.
Mr. Speaker, in strong support.
Please proceed.
I just want to thank Carissa for being a beacon of life to many young women, and also as a freshman legislator, when you won that gold medal, I held on to the newspaper article because it really gave me hope last year, and I am so thankful that you are here today, and thank you so much for being an inspiration.
All right, members, we'll be taking a voice vote. All those in favor say aye. The motion carries. Representative Siama, please proceed with the certificate and lay presentation. All right, the chair will. The chair will call a recess to allow the members of the House to meet and congratulate the honorees. Recess. Okay, will the House come to order? Members, we're on item 6. Representative Nakamura.
Mr. Speaker, I move to adopt Standing Committee Reports numbers 1328 through 1339 as listed on pages 2 through 5, and that the accompanying Senate bills as may be amended pass second reading and be referred to their designated committees.
Representative Morikawa.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
Is there any discussion, members, beginning with SCR 1328 on page 2? 1328, 1329, 1330, 13, Representative Ganaden.
SCR 1328, Mr. Speaker?
1328,
Yes.
please proceed.
In strong support. Mr. Speaker, this bill expands a very successful program which allows women at Windward Community College to work with incarcerated women to get their GEDs. Myself, the representative from District 31, the PSD director, and several judges attended graduation celebration just a few months ago, and I've been to numerous graduations, but none were quite as joyous as this. It was quite impressive to see the female prisoners see themselves not only as scholars, but as leaders within their own communities. We are seeing, with the advocacy from the Women's Prison Project, as well as other organizations, what best practices looks like, and we hope that in future years, this can be applied to the men as well.
Okay, members, we're back on 1331. Any discussion? If not, next page, 1332, 1333, 1334. Representative Garcia.
No vote.
So ordered. Representative Pirik.
No, please.
So ordered.
Speaker.
Representative Ward.
Thank you, Speaker. No vote, brief comment.
Please proceed.
Mr. Speaker, this bill competes with the citizens' decision of the U.S. Supreme Court. If not competing with it, overturns it, basically. My concern is that, we're playing at the state level with the First Amendment, the most sacred of all the freedom of speech amendments, or the amendment of freedom of speech. I'm not sure that we have all the legal and jurisprudence behind all of this. According to our discussion in the caucus, the AG didn't even show up to say anything about this. Can a state constitution overrule a U.S. Supreme Court? Maybe some lawyers on the floor here will give insight into that, but I don't believe that the states have that right. And look, I'm not for the united decision. I think there's too much money in politics, but this way of going about it, I'm not convinced is the way. So let's see as it plays out. But for now, I am a no. Thank you, Speaker.
Okay. Representative Alcos.
With reservations.
So ordered. Representative Matsumoto.
Same request.
So ordered. Okay, we're on the next page, 1335, 1336. Representative Ward.
1335 at appropriate
Please proceed
time,
on 1335.
Oh, okay. Speaker, this is a, how would you say, a book, a cooking.
Are you in support or opposition?
I am in opposition given the implications of giving the counties another superpower to overcome their debt limits. Mr. Speaker, we have home rule, but we also have limitations as to the amount of debt that the state can get into, the amount of debt that counties can get into. And it says it's for infrastructure, but it says it's for other things also. I would bring to the attention of the body that thanks to David Shapiro, in his Sunday article, he mentioned that the city council members are going to now be, from their $68,000 salary, given a $185,000 salary.
Point of order.
Representative Nakamura.
Sticking to the subject matter at hand, which is SB 1295.
And SB 1295, Madam Majority Leader, is a acceptable expense by which this debt limitation can pay for. Let me add one more before you rule me out of order. The Speaker, or in this case, the Tommy Waters is now paid can't believe the amount. It's from $76,968 to $194,000 in $992. Mr. Speaker, the point is, we're allowing the counties to go more in debt. We already know the nation is problematically in debt. We have a governing amount that we can go in debt as the state. But this one says, this, like Enron, it goes off the books. The counties can increase their debt, but it doesn't count towards their debt ceiling. Mr. Speaker, that's cooking the books. That's unfair. I think this is giving the noose to the counties for which they are not going to make good use of. For those reasons, Mr. Speaker, I think we have to watch this very, very closely, because indebtedness after COVID is kind of the way to go, and we know the nation is trillions of dollars in debt. I think the state in its balanced budget is wise, but this opens the gap for the counties. Not a good policy. Thank you.
Representative Garcia.
No vote.
So ordered. Representative Perrick.
No, please.
So ordered. Representative Matsumoto.
Reservations.
So ordered. Representative Alcos.
Same request.
So ordered. Okay, we're on 1336, 1337, 1338. Next page, 1339. Any discussion? Okay, if not, we'll take a voice vote. All those in favor say aye. All opposed say no. The motion is carried. Item 7, members, are there any announcements? Representative Holt.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Tomorrow is Manufacturing Day from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Thanks to the Chamber of Commerce. In partnership with Innovate Hawaii, we're excited to bring back Manufacturing Day at the state capitol to showcase many of Hawaii's great manufacturing companies and the vital role that they play in our state's economy. So hope to see you guys all there. Thank you very much.
Are there further announcements? If not, for the motion to adjourn, Representative Morikawa.
Mr. Speaker, I move that this House stand adjourned until 12 o'clock noon tomorrow.
Representative Garcia.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
All those in favor say aye. All opposed say no. The motion is carried. The House stands adjourned until 12 noon tomorrow.